Welcome. Come and sit by the fire. This is our Warhammer Fantasy 6th Ed podcast where we take shelter from the wild ructions and day-to-day controversies of the modern gaming world to relax in our cozy, grognard space. I'm your host, Josh. I'm joined by my good friend, Ben. What have you been up to lately, mate? What have you been going on?
Strangely enough, getting ready for some 6th edition.
6th edition? Funny you say that on the 6th Ed podcast. Fun to hear that.
It's been a while for me.
Yeah. Well, you mean consider since the last tournament we were at?
I haven't played since. Yeah, so
I haven't played at all since. Yeah, right. Because I mean, Rise of Llama, which is coming up, in 6 weeks or so, isn't it? That's on the 7th of December.
Yeah, it's not too far away. Yep.
So we're looking at prep that, and we'll talk about maybe some lists that we're thinking about later in the episode. But have you got any games coming up this week at all?
Tomorrow night. Yeah.
Tomorrow night.
Yes.
Nice.
Guy that's moved from Melbourne to nearby Ballarat, I should say, not quite in Ballarat. So I'm going to give him a game. Never met the guy before, but pretty excited to play. Apparently, we're playing Chaos v Chaos. At 25 minutes. I thought it was going to be Vampire Counts.
It's Chaos. Yeah, right. Now you were saying the other day it was Vampire Counts. Right.
Yeah.
What kind of Chaos? Just, it's going to be Hordes of Chaos list of some kind?
Yeah, I've got no idea what he's playing. I've got no idea. I'm assuming he said he misses, because he's been playing a bit of Old World, and he said he misses his demons in his Chaos list. So who knows? It's going to be a bit of a list by the sounds of it.
So you're thinking he's missing the mixture of being able to put in warriors with demons and that kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, it's a very popular element of 6th Ed, isn't it? It's something that even in 8th really got lost. And I think 7th too, because even 7th they split up the books in.
Yeah, they split them all apart in 7th.
So it's really only 6th Ed. I think ever since that was dropped, people have always been wishing that they would recombine it because you get so much interesting diversity, don't you? Just being
a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, so much flexibility. And I don't think it's that overpowered either. Do you think? Just because you can get a whole different range of stuff.
Yeah. You get a whole heap of different things you can play around with. Adding even Beastmen to Mortals is quite interesting, I think. Even whacking in a unit of Minotaurs or Dragon Ogres or something along that line is pretty cool. But
yeah, because sometimes I feel like when you have a book like that where you've got a lot of broad options, sometimes you can get problems with just certain combos become really powerful. You just get one or two units that and this I feel like this happened a bit in the Old World to some extent where you've got all these different options, but then one or two units are actually a lot more powerful than the others. And then suddenly that's all you see. And, that could have happened with that book, just given how many options you have across all those different units. But I feel like I don't really see that much, I think when someone's running Hordes of Chaos, you do tend to see lots of different, I mean, maybe the demon lists, different demon units you might see less of, I think.
Yeah,
because they did get a nice buff in the Demon Legions,
Yeah.
I think that's why they were underpowered. But even then, I think they work well as support units in that book anyway. And maybe that's how they're designed, But yes, so that'll be interesting. Did you meet him? How did you meet him then? If you say you haven't met him before, where did you set up the game?
He posted on a local hobby shop page. Wondering if anyone in Ballarat played 6th Ed or Infinity, I think it was. So I popped a message up on his post. Strangely enough, he is in one of my other chat groups, but I've never met him. He was going to come to an uprising a couple of years ago, but something happened.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
so
nice.
I've spoken to him before, just never met him in the flesh.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. It's funny how just posting up those. That's the best way to get games sometimes, is just posting up a message going, if you're looking for a game and you don't really know anyone in the area, can you do it?
Yep.
It's often the only way to do it. You're not getting any other regular games. I find if I don't do that, And I don't do it often, but if I don't do that, the only games I'll get in are tournament games or event games. You know,
Yeah.
like you gotta put the feelers out if you want to have casual games, don't you?
Yeah, exactly right. I got another game lined up as well next week, I believe, against
really?
Liam and his Empire. Yeah, it's all coming.
Oh man, there's some huge
So it's
games here.
big long drought, and then they're all lining up. It's great. I think
Is that going to be?
Liam's pretty keen to come to Rise of the Llama as well. So
Nice. That's going to be another 2,500 point battle.
So the practice is happening.
This is serious. did was Liam at the last one at Hughes event?
No, he wasn't. He was at Uprising. He came to Uprising this year.
Okay.
But he was the Empire fella I was telling you about that was struggling a bit with all these old world base sizes.
Oh, that's right. He's gone and rebased everything, hasn't he?
Yeah. He started. I think he said his back to basics order turned up, so he can keep kicking on with that project.
Oh my god! Because he did he rebase everything to 25s when the old one came out?
No,
or was he on rounds? What is he rebasing from?
Liam was part of my 6-ed slow grow, and he originally based it for the old world when we were doing that. So he's gone straight to 25s, and now he's going backwards. Yeah, big job. But if he ever decides to play old world again, he can just whack him in a spacer tray and be done with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fine. Fine. I read feedback that people are like, oh no, it's too inconvenient doing spacer trays because there's potentially a lot of reforming going on in the old world, which I kind of understand, but at the same time, in my experience playing it, it hasn't been a huge problem. But then maybe because I don't really have any drilled units, that kind of thing, where you are often redressing your ranks and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think adapt trays are a nice sort of halfway point. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I did see one thing where I don't think it's been announced yet, but one of the patrons of the main podcast showed us a preview of like this weird little adapter tray that's got little different geometric shapes. So it's like it can make this sort of like that kind of pattern, and then you sort of it's cut down the middle so that you can actually change it so it's like that as well. It's hard for me to explain. I almost need a piece of paper but it's just the way that it interdigitates, because it's like a cutout of a cube. You actually just go do it, and then like the whole thing is like reformed, from a 5x4 to a 4x5, or even a 2x12 kind of thing, So, so it's almost like a movement tray that's adaptable. And I reckon you could use that with base adapters as well. And that might make it more doable to swap between different editions without having to, have finding reforming to be a big bother. Anyway, so yeah, we've got a few things to talk about, because I do want to talk about list thoughts for the Rise of Llama coming up. I think there's a few people signed up for that now, so we just need to see how that one goes. That's hopefully in Gaming Arena in North Melbourne. Yeah, hopefully it does. And then I had my campaign the other day, so I got a game in. Nice. I've only played I play one game a month, and that's at the campaign. I wouldn't feel bad. You're going to get more games in than me shortly. I mean, I don't play that much outside of events, because I've got the campaign, and then the only games of the old one I played, apart from when I played Nick Gentile back in February, has been at tournaments. Has been at Castle Assault, Uprising Castle Assault, and the Gathering Darkness, and probably going to be CanCon. I suspect CanCon is going to be my next The Old World game.
Try and get some practice in before then.
Maybe. I do need to. I should really. I was considering going to another event in Limbrook for the Old World, but then it got cancelled. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm definitely not going to do that. And that was sort of within a 4-week, window of the Rise of Llama. So for me, it was either one or the other. I feel like I couldn't get away with going to both of those full one-dayers and be going to the monthly. Well, going to the monthly campaign and do those 2 1-days. You know, like it. There's a limit to there's a balance. There's a balance.
Certainly is.
But I'm looking forward to CanCon. I mean, I'm glad to be able to play even if it's the old world. I'm glad to be able to at least do that. It's interesting that it's 6 games over 2 days. 3 days. So it's a whole weekend. Not sure if you knew that, but yeah, it'll give me something to do. I am tempted, and I think I might talk about this a little bit more later in the episode, but I am tempted to, depending on how things are going in terms of the different editions, if there's still sort of legs on 6 set, like if the old world hasn't completely dominated things by the end of next year, because there's a little bit of rumor like they might be producing a whole new line of minis. There was a White Dwarf preview that we mentioned that we saw last night on the pod that we were recording. That were like, oh yeah, you know, keep an eye out not just for classic miniature reveals, but also they might be releasing whole new lines.
Oh right,
you know, it's just an offhand sentence in the White Dwarf in answer to a letter to the editor or something. But if they release like Cathay or Kislev like as a full release, like that, I think that would, you know, it would be interesting to see what happens in that regard, because people will get really excited about that. You know, if they release a whole new army of new minis, you know, and it starts to become its own thing, it's just so hard to predict how the community is going to be. Because you know, 12 months ago it was very different. Again, in 12 months in the future, it's hard to predict. But if there's still people keen to play 6 set, I'm almost tempted to run my campaign at CanCon next year, like in 2026.
Yep.
Which would be crazy.
It would be, yeah. It'd be cool.
It'd be cool, and you know, because by then it'd be pretty polished. Like I'm still, even this is you know, we've done 2 months of playing, and there's still stuff I'm going back and going, I want to tamper with this and that and that. I'm trying not to tamper too much with the core campaign rules now that's running, but just like some of the, like last month there was a few of the scenarios like I hadn't thought about, you know, who's choosing table edges and that type of thing too much. I was just doing roll-offs, and then I hadn't thought about too much about who's getting +1 for the first turn and, you know, roll-off, especially when there's weird deployments, like because it's not clear sometimes if you have a flanking force as to who's finished deploying first, it's who gets a +1. I've just gone back and gone, okay, well the defender gets to choose a table edge most of the time, the attacker gets a +1 most of the time in certain scenarios, and just sort of streamline a lot of things in that regard. So I just continuing to fiddle, and then also the last stand scenario, which again I'll go through in a bit. I had to really heavily revamp, but it worked pretty well. But yeah, before we do that, have you got any list thoughts for Rise of Llama? What kind of army you're taking? Like the one you're running tomorrow, is that potentially an army list that you're going to be taking for it, or like a draft?
It's a draft of, yeah. So I've never run a dragon before, ever, in any edition of Fantasy.
No, never.
Never ever.
You haven't playing enough Old World, man.
Oh, I'd need 3 dragons for that.
Yes. Oh, shit.
So for the first time in how old? 6th edition? Over 20 years. I'll run a dragon.
It's a special novelty in 6th Ed to see a dragon on the board. Very exciting. Very exciting.
2250 and above, I kind of lean towards those bigger gribbly monsters like your greater demons and dragons and the likes. I think even at 2250, your dragons are push. They are so expensive, points wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm thinking of running a Slaneshi Mortal mixed list for Rise of the Llama. I can go through the list if you wish, but it is only a draft.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Should I reveal my magic items of doom that you're not meant to
know reveal about? As much as you feel comfortable about.
It doesn't. I don't really care if people know what I've got anyway.
This is a draft.
You know,
you can fake people out. Say, I'm taking this, or this.
I'm not taking a dragon. No, I'm running a Chaos Lord, Mark of Slanesh with a Berserker Sword, Pendant of Slanesh.
Oh, yeah.
Gaze of the Gods, and an Enchanted Shield. So I think his 100 points of magic items are gone with a dragon. So He's near on 700 points by himself.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Such a different dynamic to because they're just more vulnerable and they're just a bit more finicky to run. So 700 points on that one unit. If the Dragon Meal just gets shot out from under him or him just taking off, like it's a bit terrifying.
Getting ready to catch some cannonballs. And then I've got an Exalted Chaos Champion riding a Boob Worm, and he's pretty nude. I gave him a shield to get there and a great weapon to whack when he gets there. So he's
nice.
Just a support unit. He's as cheap as I could probably make him.
Nice. But yeah, he's got to support the dragon because the dragon's fast as well. And he's going to get in there, behind lines and that kind of thing. I think that's giving yourself multiple targets. Divide the fire. Divide the cannonballs.
I have had my Exalted shot off a Boob Worm turn 1 before. So I just left with the Boob Worm, which didn't really do a whole lot. Got a level 1 Scroll Caddy.
Does the Boob Worm take monster reaction chart? Or it's not a monster,
nah,
really, it just keeps going like it's sentient. Okay.
Yeah. 2 units of 5 pounds. Slaanesh Chariot. 6 Chosen Knights. Full Command Warbanner. Then I've got 11 Chaos Warriors with Halberd Shield with the Raptorous Standard. Full Command. Don't know if I said full command. 6 Mounted Demonettes. These will be fun. 3 Minotaurs. Slaanesh.
Oh, you got some Minotaurs in there.
Yeah,
sick.
Got some Minos.
Oh,
I wish I had.
I love this book.
I need to find a few more points to squeeze a standard bearer in there, but I'm still playing around, so it may happen yet. 12 Demonettes and 1 Fiend. I've got 2 Fiends, but if my Chaos Lord accidentally turns into a spawn, then I need the second one for that. I'm intrigued to know what happens, Oshim, if the Chaos Lord flees, and he's on a dragon. I'm not sure how that works.
I did cross my mind when you said it. I was wondering. I was going to ask you, actually.
Yeah. I'm not sure how that works. I'm assuming the Chaos spawn just comes off the dragon. That would be... And sit on the ground somewhere next to the dragon, then you do a monster reaction test. I don't know. I'll have to double check that one. I'm sure there'll be an FAQ somewhere.
I'm sure there would be. I mean, if Sixth Ed is anything, it's full of FAQs and rules clarifications for some of the most bizarre and unexpected, situations. Something that I really miss with the old world. I'm just having a quick look through what to do.
Yeah, that is roughly my list. I've got about 50 points to spend, which I'm not sure that's quite enough for a Minotaur standard. But
yeah, do you have the model? Do you have a model for the standard if you need it?
Yeah, I've got the model. Yeah, I've got 4 of the 5th edition Minotaurs. They're all painted. I need to make a banner for the standard.
Yeah, the 5th ed ones.
I've got the design done. I just need to print it and then paint it.
Yeah, nice. I like that list. I mean, it's pretty hard hitting, pretty fast. You got some resilience in there, and also like the fluffy use of multiples of 6. Don't go past that.
Yeah, well, the Chaos Warriors, they're 11, but I whacked the Sorcerer in there for hiding place, making it 12.
That makes it 12. Anyway. That makes it 12. I think that's possible. Because on the board it's going to be like 12. Yeah. You can take characters.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking of running. But we'll see how we go tomorrow night and next week and go from there.
Yeah. I mean, with the Berserker sword, because we were talking about it the other week, and like I reckon it's a pick, but the other problem is when it gets challenged out, you're going to get, limited value from it because it'll be like +1 attack, won't it, if he's in a challenge?
Correct. Yeah, I think it's rounded up from memory, so yeah, be 1.
Be 1 if you're fighting a man-sized model,
equal to the unit strength of all enemy models in base to base roundup. Yeah. So just be one model.
Yeah. So I guess it depends. Yeah, if you stay out of a challenge, which you may end up able to do. I wonder when you have to reveal that weapon as well, because obviously it's hidden list, and then it's like, I guess they won't know your weapon until you're wielding it, if you know what I mean. So until you're rolling, so maybe they won't necessarily always know to challenge out in terms of. I mean, they may well anyway, because you're a bloody dragon or a Lord dragon, so they just want to challenge you anyway. That usually happens by default.
Yeah. Stop
so
the
maybe
being
it won't
smushed.
inform their decision.
Yeah.
I can go through my little. I don't know. I'm in two minds about my list because I do kind of want to take the cult, even though I feel a lot less proficient about it, as we'll soon find out when I go through my game on Sunday. But the problem is I don't have 2,500 points of cult of Slanesh painted up.
Right. Okay. Yep.
So I might be forced to stick with my Bretts, depending on if I can stomach taking unpainted or primed minis or a fully painted army. If I do take the Bretts, it'd be a similar build to the Uprising list, which was a 22501, and it's just more filled out, I guess. I wouldn't have gone for anything major. Like if I had a painted guy on Hippogriff, maybe I would have taken him, but I just don't. So I'm just going to take, and like, to be honest, I played enough guys with dukes on pegs and stuff for the old world. I just want to get my characters back in units. I just want to keep them in the unit. So I got if I run the list, it'd be basically a Brett Lord with a Silver Lance, which auto hits, the Curious of Fortune, which rerolls once to wound. I think I've given him anything else. I think I've fitted in an Enchanted Shield on him maybe as well, because you can have Enchanted Shield in 6th with the Curious of Fortune, which is nice to give him a 1-up. And I've got 3 level 2s all in life. I had the Chalice, which gives you extra spell dice on one of them, and then I've also, because I got extra points, I'm trying to stick the main of the Pure Breed, which gives me extra strength for the horses on the first charge onto one of the other damsels, which would be nice. And then I've got a BSB, a Sword of Might, and a Virtual Duty, which is an extra combat res. Then in core, I've managed to find, like, what I've done is basically I've got one of each type of knight in this list, by the way, which I did already, but I've now got an extra, like a second, like it's a pretty knight heavy list, which, it's Pretoria, right? So I've got 2 units of Knight Errant, one of 9 and one of 11, and then a Knights of the Realm, 7 or so, and then a unit of skirmishing bowmen. I usually have a little Bertrand Le Brigand model chilling out in that unit, just fluffy wise, and then 2 units of mounted yeomen, unit of peg knights, unit of 8 questing knights with a war banner, which I usually stick the BSB in just to really get some nice static combat res going on that unit. I usually have the Lord in the Knights of the Realm. And I've got a big unit of 8 Grail Knights. I can buff that unit up a bit more. I think I was running 7, but I'm running 8 now with a damsel in there to make it a big full block of 9. With the Banner of Defense, which gives them a 4-up ward against like high strength shooting. Nice. And then I have stuck a trebuchet in there as well. I'm not sure about the treb. I almost put the treb in just to fill out the points because I'm like, I've just got so many points to play with. I'm not used to. I don't think I've ever ran an army this big.
Neither have I.
And I'm like, there's so many points. At some point, you're starting to go, what else am I going to put in this list to fill it out?
You run out of slots real quick.
You run out of slots. So yeah, I may well stick with the treb. I might find space to put in a little unit of men at arms as well, or something like that. Maybe I'll get some more peasants in there. But that's sort of what the list is looking like. If I was running cult, it'd basically be my entire campaign list, because the campaign is like the 3 lists together are 2,500 points. It's just that I've had to ring in a bunch of stuff that's primed, and I haven't had a chance to paint it because I've been so bloody focused on painting tiles and prepping mercenaries and NPCs and writing campaign books. It's really taken a lot of my whole time. But yeah, I feel like the cult would be, it'd be a fun, it'd be an interesting list for me to play, and it would be different. I probably may it'd be a different experience for me if I was to run the cult, especially on that big size, because I'm still really learning how they play. Like, I'm so used to Bretonnians being a 1-speed army, whereas basically you maneuver for the second turn charges, and then you charge, and then you just see where everything falls. You can just hope. Very simple. I mean, there's some subtleties about the key is deploying with the Bretts. So you just got to make sure you put your buses in the right spots, because they can't go sideways. They can only go forward. So you can win or lose a game based on where you're putting things and just how you maneuver your redirectors. Whereas the cult is so different, because I have so many different more options. And I find it hard sometimes, especially with the magic, because those spells, as everyone says, those spells are incredible.
Slaanesh ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Slaanesh ones really, I would say it's a little bit nasty, a little bit bent.
A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
But it's so hard to plan around it, because you never know which spells you're actually going to get off any given turn.
That's right. Yep.
So, and you don't know if you can't rely on anything happening. So you just hope you get off at least 1 or 2 spells in a movement combat magic phase, and then it just depends on whatever spell you get off as to how that alters your battle plan. And I think that's what I'm having some of my problem, difficulty wrapping my head around it, because I'm just I can't plan what I'm going to do, because I have no idea what spell's actually going to get off. I'm like, okay, I might try to get this one off or that one off, and that'll help me do this. And then if it doesn't go off, I'm like, okay, what do I do next time? I'm going to leave myself completely vulnerable and get shot. The army's so, fragile. It's such a glass cannon that if I misplay it, and if I get shot by multiple rounds of, say, for instance, Glade Guard at long range and short range, and my devoted just have no armor save. It's just brutal.
Tough 3, no armor.
I'll segue into that, shall I? So
yes, go
so this is, I'll talk a bit about the campaign where it's at, but the day we ended up having, so it wasn't as many this month as last month. I had four of the regulars that couldn't make it, for various reasons. So we ended up having 5 in total, including me. So it's always funny when there's odd number of players. Fortunately, the campaign's rules I've got in there accounts for that, because back in the Slogo, it wasn't annoying to have an odd number, because usually I would just be like, oh no, look, I'll sit it out because I just enjoy taking photos and seeing what happens with all the games and stuff. And it was for me, it was no big deal, really. But it is nice for everyone to be involved. And there is a mechanic in the campaign where we have a number of players that, the odd number can actually sub in his mini list, and substitute that in for one of the other active players, like Vanguard lists, basically. So that it basically becomes a 2v1, but with the same points, that it would otherwise have been.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll bring this up. So ended up being, because I defended last game and I had the fewest territories, except for Lockie, but he wasn't there. So I picked first. I actually declared an attack on Will's little forest that's got a little inn in it, a little hamlet. And then the Chris Warden, I think he was because he was one of the later picks, he ended up coming with me as an ally, essentially. So it was Cult Slaanesh and Tomb Kings versus Wood Elves. So we've got a little characters facing off in the middle. And we rolled up a pitch battle. So yeah, fairly average roll for the engagement thingo. So yeah, we'll be the defender. He's got 200 point deficit against the attackers, but he gets a few hundred extra victory points in the game if we're not within the edge of the board. If he's got a few units left on the table, he gets another 100 or so points. He also got a mercenary unit at the start of the game, so he got the Pizarro's Lost Legion,
cool.
A block of 20 pikemen with a crossbows, which is kind of cool. So they're the guys, for those watching on YouTube, they're the guys. Yeah, they're primed and they're sitting behind the church next to the Eagles. Again, one day I'll have enough time to paint up all the crazy stuff that I was printing for this campaign. One day. Once I've done all the tiles and everything else I need to get done. Hopefully in time for CanCon 2026, eh?
Well, at least you've got a deadline.
Yeah, totally. So he deployed fairly centrally. What has he got? I think I've got a closer photo of this. Yeah, so he's got 2 units of Glade Guard on a hill in the middle. He's got a unit of Eternal Guard to the right of them, so further away on the image, that are sitting behind an obstacle. And then at the other side of that ruined building that you can't even see on this image, there's actually a Dryads with what's the word for the Dryad mage?
Branch Wraith.
Branch Wraith, that's it, sorry. Fade there. And then the other side of the Glade Guard in the center to the left, we've got a Tree Man behind a church. We've got the Great Eagle. We've got Bizarro's Lost Legion. We've got a BSB and 3 Warhawks. He's also got, just behind those Glade Guard in the center, he's got a level 4 on life and a unit of War Dancers as well. Whereas we had, have I got a photo of them on the side? Oh, I'll go back to this one. So he's basically, so Chris being the Tombkin player, in his Vanguard of 750 points, he's basically got a big block of skeleton warriors, some 3 Ushabti, and then he had a Tomb Prince and a Priest in the list as well, and they're both chilling out in the big block of skeletons. So he's basically got 2 units, and that's it. Oh, that's right. And he had a Scorp. He had a Scorpion that he chose to bury under the ground. And so his playstyle is really central. They're both pretty chunky things. So I'm like, that'll be a good anchor. That won't. So none of those units are going to disappear from shooting anytime soon. So on to his left, basically opposite the Eternal Guard, I've got my devoted, like Witch Elf type unit with the Anointed in it. And then on the other flank, I've got the Cold One Knights, and then right on the hard, even past the Cold One Knights, I've got the Dark Riders with my level 2 in there, my level 2 general, who's also on Slanesh. Then I had some shades that I planted in a forest. So the Dark Riders are across from the Warhawk Riders, and then the shades are sort of halfway between those 2 units, basically. So where are we? So yeah, you can see a little bit there more. So the first turn, I can't remember who went first, but probably the biggest thing that happened was that the Scorp rolled a misfire. And when he rolled the misfire chart, he got a 2. I think he paid to re-roll the 2, because you can pay in this campaign. You've got about 2 or 3 chances to re-roll if you want to spend the coins on it in your game. He rolled a 2 again, and the Scorp didn't come out of the ground. It was so annoying. Because that's right, yeah. The Warlock player did have the first turn. Will did have the first turn, and he was terrified about where this Scorp is going to appear, because he put the marker like right in the middle of his mage, his Glade Guard, and he was like really terrified about, okay, what I'm going to do with the Scorpion? Like this could come up anywhere, and then it just disappears into the sands, never to be seen, even with a reroll.
Pretty nasty too. Tough 5, 3 wounds.
Yeah,
and all their attacks are killing blow or something. 3 or 4 attacks, isn't it? Strength 5, killing blow.
I think so. Yeah, I think it might be 3 attacks. But yeah, they've got killing blow. Well, and they're hard to kill. And then it's so hard to predict where they're going to end up. I must admit, close range. If you've got a unit of 10 Glade Guard close range, hitting on 3s, wounding on 5s,
you'd probably get him.
You're gonna get 1 or 2 wounds, I reckon. Maybe then if you get a stand and shoot, you probably take him off. So yeah, I don't know. I reckon it just depends on where exactly it landed as to what he would have to do. But it's also then absorbing a whole lot of shooting, and he's turning his lines around. Whereas his archers were relatively free to shoot at my devotion, which was very sad. Because, the Devoted came up. I managed to get a Chilling Delusions off on the Eternal Guard. Actually brought them out from behind the fence. Now, you can see in this photo, they have come out and they're wheeled across. What I hadn't accounted for, obviously, was that the fence was going to reduce their movement by half. So they've only basically wheeled and got 5 inches over the fence.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've house ruled it this whole campaign, by the way, that you can march in difficult terrain in 6 ends, so that it's not ridiculous. Because what I was picturing was they'd be 5 inches further forward, so that I would actually be setting up for a flank charge the following turn. But they didn't get far enough really for me to be able to do that. And then he's brought the dryads over from the other side of that building. So it ends up being a slightly terrifying position for me. I was almost better off putting it on the dryads and sucking them right out the front so that I could just hit the dryads, and he probably wouldn't be able to come out from behind the fence because the fence is in the way, so we can't really countercharge. Everything else sort of moved up for me. On the other side, the Dark Riders, I was probably more hesitant with him than I should have been, really, because he's got multiple magic missiles, and I was a bit worried that the Warhawk Riders. So the thing with Warhawk Riders is I picture them as Peg Knights, but they don't have that many attacks. Like, I thought the Hawks had 2 attacks each.
Only one each or something, isn't it?
I think they've only got 1 each, so they've only got 2 attacks per base rather than 3.
Yeah.
So I probably could have just thrown the Dark Riders right up, because she did roll the whip. So she's got the bound spell that gives Doombolt. So she's got 2 magic missiles of fairly high strength. But they're both short range, 18 inches and 12 inches. So, I probably could have just pushed her right up and tried to get off some magic shooting on the Warhawks. And even if I quite fluff it, they might still be okay, as to because I was worried if I tried to flee that I would just get run down, because a 20-inch charge is terrifying. But yeah, maybe they would be okay, because you can still sound and shoot, I guess, although that's probably not going to do many wounds. But I feel like the risk might have been worth it, because they actually got Hail of Doom arrowed horribly in the next turn. That unit. BSB popped up, and one Hail of Doom. Shows that I think he rolled like 15 hits. Now, I wasn't sure. Now, this is a good question for you, actually, because we didn't look this up, and it was really more just Chris was like, this is how it works, and Will and I were like, oh, okay. You roll 15 hits. This is a unit of 5 Dark Riders and then a wizard in it. Now, does any hits get distributed on the wizard, given that it's in a unit of 5 or more? Because he was basically like, no, the unit dies, but no wounds get carried over to the wizard, because it's a unit.
I'd have to have a look. Yeah. I'd have to have a look. If it was less than 5 to begin with, then you start distributing, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I'm definitely aware of that, where if less than 5, you distribute hits. I actually didn't bother looking it up. My instinct was I actually thought it would still distribute if you had so many hits on there, because it was a bit weird. Like, he hit 15 times, he did like 10 wounds on this unit. So the 5 cold Dark Riders just died, and then the wizards just like chilling out. And then we're like,
I have to have a look. So, not sure.
Yeah. It felt a bit weird, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I probably have to look it up and just have a look. But yeah, I suspect that might be how the rule is, because like, it is a unit of 5 models or more. And usually you don't distribute anything more to it. So yeah, you may well be right, but I just thought I'd see if you had any input there, but that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, sadly.
So where are we now? So he did end up shooting at the Devoted. He started whittling down. The first turn I actually moved them, because I was a bit cautious with them, because I was worried about the short range shooting of the Grey Guard. I knew that, my first turn, I was like, oh, look, I'll stay out of 15 inches, so just so they don't get absolutely destroyed. And I judged it pretty well. They were about 15.5 inches out, but that also meant that the Devoted were too far away for me to try to pull off a second turn charge, because they've got the Banner of Murder, which gives them an extra d6 inches.
Oh, right,
so if I'd pushed them right up a full 10 and they'd been in short range, I might have just had one turn of shooting them to suffer. Because what actually happened was, because the fence was in the way of the Eternal Guard, who I titillated, and the Dryads moved up cautiously, it meant that I actually had a second turn of shooting, because I actually was like, oh, there's still too far away to charge. I'm forced to move them up now into short range.
Yep.
So then they get absolutely hammered. And I think the unit got wiped out to a man in the end before it even got into combat. I might swip forward. Where are we? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so this is they've lost more. The Dryads have come out around the side of the Devoted. Everything else is sort of closing in. But yeah, my Devoted are dying. Now, yeah, they've got wiped out to a man. He'd moved the Dryads up to this flank of them. And because the Anointed's by himself, I'm like, I guess I'll just charge the Dryads because he can.
Yep.
And he'll probably be okay because he's got 5 strength 7 attacks. Unfortunately, he didn't have a magic weapon. He doesn't have magical attacks because he's not a true demon. He gets a demonic ward save, but he doesn't get magical attacks. So they still had a 5 aboard. Now, he actually did pretty well. I think he killed... you've got 5 attacks, but you're only hitting on 3s, so you're only going to get so much through even with 5 attacks. So I think he hit 3 times. He got off maybe 3 wounds and he saved 1 ward. So he killed 2 guys. So he won the combat by 1 because he's outnumbered. But they passed the break and they hung around. The following turn, the Eternal Guard that are now over the fence and have straightened up again. He declares a charge with them. Now this is a really tight charge. I didn't actually see it because it was, I actually thought the Eternal Guard were further away. But it was so tight because he needed to wheel to line up with the Anointed, and he's got the War Dancers sort of sitting about not even quite half an inch from the back of the unit of the Eternal Guard. So it was actually really fiddly trying to work out, how if he could make that charge or not, because he would trying to work out, could he wheel and then just move? Does he need to move forward a bit to get out of the way of the War Dancers and then wheel and then move? And it was a really line ball decision. I ended up just going, look, let's just 4-up it because I think it's, there was too much discussion going on. And I was just like, look, let's just 4-up it. I don't care. if he gets charged, he gets charged. Anyway, so yeah, he actually rolls a 4-up. So they're in. So the Eternal Guard hit the Anointed. And the Anointed is obviously not going to survive this, unfortunately, not with all that standard combat res. So I think he lost that combat by like 6. And ran fled and was run down. On the other side of the board, because I spent a lot of time talking about that flank, essentially the Tomb Kings actually kept moving up, marching up, not marching, but magical moving up. They were pretty unstoppable, basically. The shooting they didn't care about. They just ended up hitting one of the Glade Guard units. The other Glade Guard unit actually got panicked off the board, by the way. My Shades got 1 amazing turn of shooting off, killed 4 of them. They failed the panic and they just ran off, which is amazing. I was like, wow. So they actually, those Shades, because they managed to trigger a panic, they actually managed to pick up a skill at the end of the game, because that's one of the, because they stayed above half strength. They managed to trigger a panic. So they got, I think they got a elite buff, which is you reroll 1s to hit when you're shooting, which is a nice little buff. Yeah. And then the Cold One Knights, they lost a couple of models from, I can't remember what it might have been a magical attack. I can't quite remember. And then they charged the Tree Man because the Tree Man was in front of them. They had no choice but to charge the Tree Man, which is exactly the opposite of what I wanted to happen. But that's what always happens. This has happened last time Will and I played at Hugh's event. They ended up charging the Tree Man because they were opposite each other. And I was like, I don't want to be in the Tree Man. The Tree Man's friggin' stubborn, 6. These guys are only doing 5 on the charge as it is. Fortunately, funnily enough, in that game, he found a rerollable 7, leadership 8 stubborn check, and they just ran him down, which was ridiculous. But it's the way this game goes. This game, that did not happen. I think I kept winning combat bizarrely because he kept fluffing his attacks, but I couldn't get any wounds off. But I think I won 3 combats in a row, but he just would keep passing the first break check. He didn't even need to reroll it. It was just like, that's fine. Eventually he whittled down and they ended up losing all their numbers. So they actually just, the actually just got wiped out in the end just from the Tree Man just constantly slowly killing them. But he kept fluffing his attacks. He'd get 2 hits or 1 hit and then just won't save. He's still getting a 5-up save, it's not that bad. But they did end up dying in the end. So I'm running out of models, as you can probably tell, because my Dark Riders got blasted off by Hail and Doom Arrow. My Mage, she lost a wound. I can't remember. She lost 1 wound from something. I can't remember. And then the BSB, on like turn 4 or 5, he just like takes his bow, BS7, one shot, hits, 2s to hit, 4 up to wound. I think he fails it, and then he pays to re-roll it. He gets the wound. She's got 6 up save, fails. She's dead. PSP had his revenge, like not a revenge, but he finished the job he started with the Hail of Doom arrow, basically. I'm like, fuck. But that I lost her and the Anointed that same turn, and that was the same turn that the skeleton block went through the other Glade Guard unit on the hill and overran straight into his level 4 on life. It took her off. So suddenly all the magic on the table in the space of 2-player turns is pretty much gone, except for the Tomb King priest and the branch Wraith that's still alive, but can't really do that much. So where are we? Oh, I should tell a story about Pizarro's Lost Legion, because they haven't really done very much yet. They got charged by the Ushabti. I think he positioned it slightly poorly initially, and they actually got flank charged. I think because he just didn't quite. He mixed up how you measure the flank. I think he was thinking you measure the flank arc from the charging unit, which is just wrong, unfortunately. But they charged the flank, they fled, but then they did outrun the Ushabti. I believe they reformed. The Ushabti charged in the front, but by that point they have the skeletons coming on the side as well. I think he got a magical charge off with the skeletons, I believe, or maybe not even that. Maybe the Ushabti just running the front, and they just had, because they were down to like 14, it was enough to break them a second time. Where are we? Yeah, I think so. At the end of the game, I didn't have much left. I just had the Shades on the board. It was just the Eternal Guard and the Dryads. And then the Tomb King, both Tomb King units were pretty much untouched from the start to the end of the game. The few units that did lose, they just resurrected. So basically, Chris basically carried me through this game. All my stuff, took all the shooting, it all died. And then the Tomb Kings just came up the middle and took off all the Wood Elven core units pretty much. Once we totaled up all the points, it ended up being a draw. I think it was about 200 points in the Wood Elf favor and Will's favor, but that was enough for it to be a draw because it's below 300 point difference. So I was like, it's a tie game. I was like, okay, what's the result of the campaign? No effect. Nothing happens after all that. It was so ridiculous. The other game was the Dwarves. I'll just quickly go through this because it leads into something I want to talk about briefly as well. So we've got Ash's Dwarves attacked Matt's High Elves on his Wizard Tower. They rolled a last stand. Last stand. Okay. Came into the campaign, and it worked pretty well. It worked a lot better than it did originally. Matt, the High Elf player, was freaking out while he was playing it because I think 2 or 3 times he came up to me during the match while we were playing, going, Josh, this is still not balanced, Josh. I don't know what's going on. I don't think I've got any chance. Because he missed out on the first turn as well, because I was asking you, like, do I give it order or not, or do I do 2 dice? I ran with the 2 dice versus 1.
Yeah.
Like the highest of 2 dice, that is, not 2d6. What happened with the first turn is they rolled it. I think he got a 1 and 2, and the Dwarf player got a 2, so it was a draw. So they re-rolled, and then the Dwarf player rolled a 6, and he rolled like 2 and 4. So the Dwarf player won. And he paid to re-roll another dice to try to get a 6. And almost like he should have oh, maybe I should just pay to re-roll the first roll off. But yeah, he was desperate to get the first turn, and he just the dice just went with him. So he did go second. And it was a pretty epic match, really. Because the dwarves are pretty slow moving, and I would argue this army is least suited to being the attacker. In the last stand, because it just takes them so long to get to close in. I did try to make the deployment zones relatively close. I think there's a 17-inch gap between the center 20-inch deployment zone of the attacker. versus the 9 inches on each short table edge for the defender. I mean, sorry, other way around for the attacker. So it just still takes them, 3 turns really to get into the center square. And the defender's got 2 defended obstacles, one on each side of the deployment zone. So he's got some areas that he can defend. And, in 6th defended obstacles are pretty potent, pretty hard to breach if you've got a decent unit hiding behind it. Now, funnily enough, so this is because he was defending the wizard tower. He stuck his little wizard up in the
wizard tower.
In the wizard tower. Well, last night's episode didn't have this photo, but for the guys that are watching 6ed, it's fluffy. So he was up there. The wizard tower gives you can use a line of sight of the wizard tower. It's infinitely tall for casting spells. So you get +1 to cast one in the wizard tower, and you can use any spell in your chosen lore. You've got access to the library in the wizard tower. So those are the benefits of the wizard being in the wizard tower. So it's not a bad place to be. Except you can only have one wizard use it. If you have more than one wizard, they squabble and no one gets the benefits of the wizard's power. Which is so but yeah, it was a game where the dwarves were got a 750 point advantage, right? They've got deployment disadvantage where you got to deploy the whole attacking army first, then deploy it, then the defender puts it down. But there's only so much you can give you. They had a lot of shooting. I think one direct stone thrower hit on the white lines behind the fence, took out like 12 or something, or more than half of that unit, which was absolutely brutal. And he managed to cling on though. The high elf player, I think he only had like 5 or 6 models left at the center of the board, but they were alive. And they got to the end of turn 6. They count up their points, and with all the static points that the defender accumulates over the 6 turns to the end of the game, it ended up being a draw. It was a really close. Like he was surprised in the game that he had lost because it just felt like it. But I feel like when you're playing a scenario like The Last Stand, that's got to be the sensation a little bit. I'm a bit worried though that given the matchup, if the matchup's not really reverse, but if the high elf player was playing against an army with higher mobility that was going to close in much earlier, how what the outcome would have been. And I am tempted to alter 2 things. I'm tempted to give the defender the choice of first or second turn just automatically. But I am tempted to shorten it slightly. I'm tempted to go to either, as it is 6 turns, I am tempted to either make it 5 turns or do a random turn in. So go 5 turn and on a 4 up at 6 turns. It's almost like you're waiting for the reinforcements to revive and you don't know when, kind of thing. So I am leaning towards going maybe 5 turns on a 4 up at 6 turns. Just to, because the thing is though, it's so hard to balance this, right? Because from the dwarf player's perspective, he's like, I don't know what I could have done differently. My army just moves slowly. This is if you make it any more difficult for me, I don't think I can win this.
I think with such small sample data as well, it's going to be hard until it's being played.
Well, that's the thing. Do you think I should just let it? I should just sit on it and just just maybe
give it another round or 2, and then if you need to alter it, then see how you go. Depending on what the matchup is next time. If you get as you said, if you get a quick army that's the attacker next time, it might be a completely different game. But until it happens, I do like your ideas though. Going to 5 with a random turn 6, random chance of turn 6. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm tempted to do that. Because one other thought I had, this is something that Gomo sort of alluded to the idea of as something I could add into it, but I'm actually, this morning I was like, maybe I should just make this as a branch for a different type of scenario. He was like, oh, what about the idea of having actual reinforcements to the defender coming in onto the board at some point? And I reckon I could, because I've got enough, in terms of the deployment roles, I've got enough slots that I could actually add in another scenario between Last Stand and the surprise attack. and I potentially could do like a last stand style, but like on turn 4, the defender's vanguard, like the 750 list of the defender, comes on the board. So it's a much more even game, but it's more like you have this relief force just come on the board. So you wouldn't get any advantages for the defender. Like, you're taking all the deployment advantages, taking all the victory point advantages, and instead you just have, you've got the defenders in the middle, you've got the attackers on each side, but then like maybe turn 3 or turn 4, you have 750 points of the defender come on the board.
Yeah, could work.
What do you think?
Fighting. Depends on the turn they come on. Do they move on the board, or they march onto the board?
I'm thinking it would either be they come on the board on turn 3 as normal, or they come on the board on turn 4 and can charge. And where they come on, the defender selects the side of, because it'll be the center of the long end of a table, and the defender selects at the start of the game which side they come on.
Right.
But the attacker doesn't know. It's secret selection. But he's got to nominate before the start of the game. And then maybe like turn 4, because I feel like it needs to be at least halfway through to make it feel like it's a rescue. Turn 4, they might come on and they can charge on turn 4, so that they can be really, that potentially could be a massively destructive turn if the attacker's units are in the wrong spot at the wrong time. But it's very swingy though.
The attacker's thinking, where the hell are these guys going to turn up?
Yeah. Like, do you think that's feasible, or do you think that's just like so random and hard to predict that it's just like not going to be a fun experience? Like,
I think it'd be super fun.
Okay.
You'd be messing the defender would be messing with the attacker's mind games. It'd be good fun, I reckon.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think
turn 4,
turn 3 sounds too early.
Yeah, the attacker needs a reasonable window to really hack into the defenders, like the defenders sort of blocks. But you need, and the thing is, there's no time pressure for these games like these, because we're not doing tournament and stuff. You've got hours, so you're not finishing the game like we get to turn 4 and then it's like, it's 2.5 hours, we're going to wrap up kind of thing. You're playing to the end of the 6 turns, so I feel like that would be the only problem, would be if people couldn't complete the full 6 turns. But yeah, I reckon, and if turn 4 you like to charge, because I think if you had to move on and couldn't charge, they've got to be turn 3, but then that feels a bit too early in the game. Right? I don't know.
I agree with that. Yeah, turn 4, let them charge.
Let them charge.
I love let them charge.
All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because I've always thought I needed one more scenario in there. But I couldn't think of a theme for it past what I've already got in. So yeah, I like it. Yeah, the rescue scenario. I love it.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to the first battle report. Maybe you need to do a test game yourself and send some photos.
I might do another one. I love doing tests. I love doing test games. Cool. That is my thoughts really, and that's all I had to go through with the camp. So the next one, when was the next one? I think it's in 4-ish weeks. I can't remember the date. I think the 17th of November will be the next one. So yeah, hopefully you get like the regulars like Cable Came and Slugger. I imagine they'll be there if they can. It's just a matter of whether there's work commitments. I think one guy was house hunting. Like there's just lots of different little variables. I think on Sundays it's always like that, where there's just always going to be a few guys that have got other commitments going on. For me, Sundays work best. So like I find weeknights, if I'm working, like I just don't have the energy to do it. Sunday's just nice, chill out for an afternoon. Hey?
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Rather than rushing through it all. Yeah, I usually play at game stores on a weeknight, and you feel like you're under the pump trying to smash a game out in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a tournament game. So.
Yeah, I know. And then you get home and it's like 10 o'clock or something. You're like, I gotta go to bed. Gotta go to work the next morning. I feel like you haven't any time to break, because like doing this hobby, like when you're playing a game, it's pretty mentally draining, isn't it? Like you don't relax and recover very much, depending on the army that you play. right? I guess.
When I get home, my brain is still going at a million miles an hour. Still triggered from the game, and I'm thinking about what if I did X, Y, or Z. So it takes me a while to calm down after a game, strangely enough.
I feel like you were doing that for months after our CanCon game. You kept bringing it up.
That's never going to disappear, that one. It's stuck.
It's stuck. Well, Hugh got his revenge for you on your behalf, didn't he? Bloody Hugh. Stealing my glory, my uprising glory. Oh, dear.
Maybe you need to throw the gauntlet out and grudge him at Rise of the Llama.
Oh, good. Yeah, grudge him, grudge you, grudge anyone.
You have to decide on what army you're taking first, and then maybe think about your grudge.
We'll see. We'll see. I'll see what I run. All right. Do you have anything else you want to chat about? I really covered most of what I wanted to do.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll have a bit more to talk about next time because I've actually played some games. Oh,
play some games, man. Get some photos. Make sure you take some photos and maybe write down a bit of a summary, especially because it'll be 2 or 3 weeks afterwards that we'll be running again.
I'll try and get some photos.
I find once it's been about even 5 days later, I find it really hard to remember what the hell was happening.
Yep. And I might have actually, I mean, I've done a lot of prep work on my dragon. I've still got I've done the fur on the how to thingo platform. I've done that now. I've just got
isn't it?
Yeah, I've just got to stick the wings on and fill them, and I can actually start priming and painting. So hopefully by the end of this week, I'll be actually painting it. That'll be nice.
Oh, I'm so keen to see it. What kind of colors were you looking at painting it?
I'm going to do a white dragon with purple undertones because I've got purple runs through my whole army.
Yeah, through your Slanesh army. Yeah.
I mean, my demonettes are grey and then purple wash and then sort of white highlights up. But my models are all purple in the body. So I think I need a white dragon for him to stand out in the crowd sort of thing. Purple
so you're going to go for quite a pale white. Because I was picturing sort of like a similar grey tone to your other demonettes, but you're going actually quite a pale white. Oh,
yeah, white.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay.
Fingers crossed it works.
It's going to be a challenge. Yeah. I find, trying to get the really bright white, but also getting enough shading in so you get some nice contrast. I find the trap is that you end up, you can easily go into a grey colour without meaning it, know? I almost feel like sometimes what I do is I try to paint under quite a dull light almost, because I find like sometimes if my painting light is too bright, I actually really underestimate how bright the light is if I'm doing that. Whereas if you turn the brightness right down, suddenly you're like, oh god, this is really grey. Like I'm going to fight to get this thing really bright white again. Because when we're gaming, it's like these are poor whites that we're playing at. We're never playing under really bright, nice sort of neon white.
It's always disappointing when you're painting something and it looks fantastic under the bright light and then pretty average under normal. But I need the bright light, otherwise I can't paint properly.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, you need a light of some kind. It's one of those things, isn't it? Where I fall into that trap a lot, and I'm finding I'm turning the brightness down. I still use a light, obviously.
Yep.
But if I turn the brightness down subconsciously, it makes me go for more stark highlights than I otherwise would have. So it's almost like you want the crappier light. The crappier light, the better.
I'm hoping I'm going to do the vast majority of the dragon with my airbrush. So I'm hoping that will cut out a lot of the hard work, maybe. We'll see how we go.
How much airbrushing do you do? I actually didn't know you had an airbrush.
Mainly undercoats, base coats, sort of
Yeah.
thing. I don't.
Yeah.
I can't do fine detail and stuff like that. Maybe if it was
neither can I.
a 40k tank or something, it'd be very easy, where there's lots of flat areas. But
Yeah.
I think fine detail on very intricate things, I would not be able to do it.
Yeah. No.
I need a lot more practice, or be taught how to do it properly. I think maybe I need to watch some more YouTube.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mainly just use it for priming. Priming. It's pretty much all I use the airbrush for. So you're already ahead of me using it for base coats. I just haven't worked out a good system. Yeah, sorry.
All my Chaos Mortals, they were all done, like all the purple and stuff was done, and the cloaks were done with the airbrush. So most of it was done. It was just once I'd done the purple and the white cloaks, it was just highlight up sort of thing. So airbrush did a lot of the hard work.
What type of paint do you use for the airbrush?
I use 95% of my paints are Vallejo paints. I use the Model Air or Game Air range usually.
Oh, so you are using your airbrush paint? Like
yeah.
You got did you buy like the whole Model Air range, or you just buy like certain colors that you were?
I bought a couple of sets years and years ago, and I've still got heaps and heaps of paints. So I do buy the odd one every now and again. I get told off by the wife when I buy new paints, because if it's in what she calls Ben's paint shop, which is a box of duplicate paints, I sort of get in a bit of trouble. I have a huge box of duplicate paints.
Man, what are you doing?
When I was in Melbourne, I used to go to House of War, and without doubt, on the way out, I would pick up paints for whatever I was painting, and sure enough, I'd already have those paints when I got home.
That's annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got some extra paints to get rid of or use at some point.
I mean, I've got a few of those. I think it's an easy mistake to make, but most of the Vallejo paints I've got, I did just buy them in one massive batch or two massive batches, just online. And I think that's easier to not accidentally double up. I have got some that double up, and I'm trying. What I've done is I'm labeled one number one, the other one number two. So I'm aiming to use up number one first. But I've got them all in the rack. I haven't gotten so many that I've got a box of duplicates.
But I've only got maybe after 5. We finish up, I'll send you a photo of my desk.
Oh, I'm keen to see. That's interesting though. So the air, like you found, I've got all the regular Vallejo layer paints. I've got all the contrast and stuff, but I never really bothered to invest in the Model Air stuff or any like airbrush specific paint.
It's just already thinned, so you don't have to use thinner to thin it down. You get less clogs. More generally speaking, you get less clogs. Maybe
I should be tempted to, because I've always been like, oh no, look, that seems silly. Why buy a whole set of paints just to be slightly thinner when you can thin it yourself? And then I try to thin it myself, and then I invariably get huge amounts of clogging, just frustration. I just give up trying to do it for base coats ever. Like even priming is a chore a bit.
Yeah, I found if you don't use, it says on a lot of the primers I've got, you don't need thinner. I think that's a load of crap. If you don't use thinner, it's you can have.
It says you don't put a thinner. Yeah. Like the last few weeks when I have been priming, I've been like, fuck, this is so frustrating. And I started chucking in thinner, and it was like, this is better. So okay, so I'm on the right track then. You say just thinner, or even put okay. Yeah.
I don't know if my recipe's correct or not, but I go 2-part paint, 1 part thinner. So
that's pretty thin.
Yeah. So that's what
So that's even with the model, even with the air paints, you're saying you throw.
No, just the primer. The primer.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the primer.
Yeah.
Wow, that's still it's a pretty decent amount of dilution.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, and this is the airbrush thinner, not like the flow improver or anything like that. And you don't.
Yeah, just
like,
the thinner. Yeah.
Just the thinner.
You can use a bit of flow improver if you want, but I generally use that for the other paints. So for the air paint, the standard paints.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
for lighter colors like whites and stuff. Not.
The ones that get a bit chalky, you mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
So I try
okay.
that. But you don't always get the best results, but just I'm a bit worried about my dragon, but we'll see how we go. It'll be interesting.
You are selling me on this. Maybe I should try.
Just try it on a test model. Don't go and buy 15 paints and be
Can I
disappointed.
can I buy 15 paints? We just
pick out a random Bretonian knight you haven't painted and have a crack.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I should. I'm trying to paint some demons at the moment. It's just secretly. So yeah, I might try. I might try it. I'd be keen because I've almost thrown it in the towel for doing anything other than priming because I'm having so much trouble with priming, just clogging. Yeah. And I have more success just thinning it a bit. So maybe I will try and because I got a decent airbrush.
Yep.
I've got a H&S one that's pretty old now, but it's good quality.
That's what I've got as well.
Oh, you got an H&S one? Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm keen to see the dragon.
Hopefully next time I'll have some progress.
Oh, nice. And you get some games in.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd like keen to hear how you go. All right. I'll wrap it up then, shall I? So, thanks for listening, guys, to another Six Ed Fanatics episode. If you enjoy Ramblings, we'd love a 5-star review on your podcast software of choice, or if you're watching on YouTube, please hit us the like and subscribe buttons and click the bell to be notified of our latest videos. And again, feel free to join the Old World Fanatics Patreon if you want. But yeah, it is sort of Old World based. Well, like these episodes are in a weird sort of halfway world that is sort of offshooting from the Old World Fanatics, but like the Patreons is kind of fun. There is some nice chat in there. It's mainly about hobby more than Old World specifically. But yeah, until next time, thanks for listening to another episode of Six Ed Fanatics. Cheers, Ben.
No worries. See you later.
Yeah.